Let me tell you something truly fascinating about your brain. It has this incredible ability to constantly restructure itself. Scientists call it neuroplasticity. In the past, they used to believe that our brain was pretty much set in stone after childhood, but thanks to advancements in imaging technology, we can now literally see how our brain changes depending on how we use it. So in this video, I want to share a really simple trick that can help rewire your brain and reduce anxiety, considering the fact that
anxiety is the most common mental illness.
But fear not, I'll also provide you with practical steps that you can take to rewire your brain and reduce anxiety. Plus, I'll throw in some extra techniques that you can develop by yourself or with the help of a therapist to gain better control over your anxiety. Let's kick things off with a captivating illustration of neuroplasticity. In London, there are taxi drivers that have to pass a very tough exam. They have to memorize all the streets, events, and places in the city. Scientists took pictures of their brains before they started studying, and again after 2 years of hard work. Guess what they found? They actually saw changes in the brain's connections and wiring. This shows that if we change how we think, like through therapy, it can actually change the structure of our brain and the chemicals it produces. Our brain is truly amazing. It can rewire itself to learn, grow, and heal. So let's now talk about how we can apply this to anxiety. To change how our brain deals with anxiety, we need to understand 3 important principles. Let's start by understanding what anxiety really is. It may sound obvious because you know how anxiety feels, but we need to examine your perspective on it. We have to let go of the idea that anxiety is always bad. Anxiety isn't necessarily bad. It can be uncomfortable and sometimes it can even disrupt our lives. But here's the important thing. We all experience anxiety because it serves an important purpose. It's there to motivate us to avoid real dangers. For example, feeling anxious when standing on a cliff edge helps keep us safe. Feeling anxious before an important test pushes us to study. Anxiety is our body's way of telling us that something matters to us. In fact, anxiety and excitement are pretty similar reactions in our body, both involving the release of adrenaline that gets us ready for action. If we view anxiety as uncomfortable yet normal, we can find new ways to work with it, including dealing with disordered anxiety. Now, let's talk about disordered anxiety. This is when anxiety seems to take over your life. It makes it hard to go to work, school, or enjoy life in general. And the more you try to make it go away, the stronger it gets. Disordered anxiety isn't just about how severe it is. It's actually about 2 main things. Firstly, when you feel in danger even though you're actually safe. For instance, imagine being afraid of radiators. You might feel anxious and sweaty around them and avoid going into rooms with radiators even though they're not actually dangerous. Secondly, anxiety becomes disordered when it starts interfering with your ability to function. This is when your anxiety prevents you from facing life effectively. You might start avoiding school, calling in sick to work, isolating yourself, or giving up activities you used to love. Eventually, anxiety takes over and stops you from doing the things that bring you joy. Want to know why anxiety can spiral out of control? We call it the anxiety cycle. Every day we have experiences and we interpret them as either safe or dangerous. Let's say you see a dog, for example. Different people interpret the same experience differently. Some might find it exciting and enjoyable, while others might think, that dog's going to bite me. This leads to feelings of fear, anxiety, and even panic. These feelings are uncomfortable and you might start believing that your thoughts are true. So what do? You escape. You run away. You get out of there. And guess what? Nothing bad happens. Your brain then gets a surge of relief and thinks, phew, that was close. I survived because I ran away. It could have been really dangerous. Your brain decides to increase your anxiety about similar situations to make sure you avoid them. So each time you feel anxious and avoid a situation, your anxiety level goes up a notch. Your brain strengthens this behavior by creating neural pathways. Emotions are meant to motivate us to take action, but that's a topic for another discussion. In this case, since we convinced our brain that the dog was a threat, it takes matters into its own hands and increases your anxiety levels when it comes to dogs. So every time we feel anxious and avoid a situation, our anxiety level goes up a little more. Now, let's talk about how avoiding things actually fuels disordered anxiety and makes it overwhelming. There are many ways we avoid it. We might physically run away or avoid certain places, but we can also emotionally avoid things. For example, if you have social anxiety, you might still go to a party, but only if you get drunk beforehand. Or in a relationship, you might be scared of getting hurt, so you keep your emotions at a distance and avoid committing. Avoidance can also take the form of using social media, getting angry, blaming others, or distracting ourselves. No matter how we avoid it, it ends up increasing our anxiety and making our world smaller. Now let's say you're afraid of dogs. You start avoiding situations where there might be dogs, like not going to friends' houses or skipping the park. As a result, your world becomes limited. You miss out on building relationships and enjoying different activities. Avoidance shrinks your world and makes it scarier and unhappier. Every time you feel anxious and avoid something, and nothing bad happens, your brain learns that avoiding was the right thing to do. It thinks, phew, I survived because I ran away. I better increase the anxiety even more so you'll stay away from that situation. So your anxiety goes up. Now let's look at this cycle and find where we can intervene to stop anxiety taking over. The first place is through our actions. When we feel anxious but we're actually safe, if we stay in that situation and face our emotions and physical sensations without running away, our brain learns that we can handle it. It realizes that not all dogs are dangerous. For example, over time, our anxiety decreases and we become better at handling uncomfortable feelings. Our brain forms new pathways that help us see the situation differently. It also changes our brain chemistry, reducing the release of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. This is a simple way to rewire our brain and reduce anxiety, but I understand that it's not easy. That's why I'll break it down into 3 steps for you. By the way, the second place to intervene in this cycle is with our thoughts. Changing how we think about the dog, for instance, can be a powerful treatment, but it's best to do it before we feel anxious rather than during the anxiety itself. Let's break down the 3 steps to tackle anxiety. Step 1 is all about making a list of things that scare you and breaking them into small steps. Start by facing the easiest one with courage. Many people make the mistake of rushing into things too quickly, which leads to panic or the urge to escape. So take your time to create a list of small steps. Step 2 is about changing your approach. Remember, being brave doesn't mean being fearless. It means deciding that something is more important than avoiding fear. In acceptance and commitment therapy, this is known as willingness. Allow yourself to do things that make you uncomfortable. Avoid setting rules like, I'll do this until I get too anxious, as it only reinforces anxiety. Instead, choose an easier task to start with and stick with it. Keep track of how long you can stay in the situation or wait until your anxiety decreases by half. It can also be helpful to practice grounding activities and self-regulation techniques that focus on your body. But remember, the key is to face your anxiety and give it time to decrease. Step 3 is simple but powerful. Just go for it. Face your fears head on and see if you can overcome them. Spoiler alert, you definitely can. For instance, if you're afraid of dogs, start by imagining yourself interacting with a dog for 10 minutes every day. Gradually increase the difficulty, perhaps with the help of a friend who has a dog. You might progress from observing a dog through a window to being in the same room with a small dog on a leash. Take your time and practice until your anxiety decreases. The goal is to build up your confidence and eventually spend time in a dog park without feeling overwhelmed. It's okay to feel anxious or uncomfortable during this process, but stay committed. Your brain will learn that most dogs are not dangerous, and your anxiety will lessen. Remember, while facing anxiety, you can also incorporate grounding activities to help you stay present. However, it's important not to rely on them as a way to avoid anxiety altogether. Instead, use them as tools to practice accepting and normalizing your feelings. So the solution to anxiety is straightforward. Confront your fears step by step, and you'll gradually find relief. If you want to share your views on rewiring the brain for anxiety, let us know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends so we can keep making them. For more videos like this, hit the subscribe button and remember to click on the notification bell. Also, be sure to check out our other videos as well. Thanks for watching.